Hey guys, welcome to another video on how to play 40k, and we're going to talk about the movement phase. Now, we went through a lot of stuff already, but you need to know this stuff to play the game, unfortunately. We're going to talking about how to move your units and stuff, the basic stuff, because again, a lot of special rules depending on the codex you're using and stuff that might modify certain rules. We showed you movement already about, per unit type, one character at a time or one unit type at a time. This is how you're going to move a full unit.
Okay, so now you're going to move one guy 6 inches, but here's the key, is that when you move these guys 6 inches, okay, they all have to be within 2 inches of each other or less.
Okay, that's called unit coherency.
Right, so now if they were like this, it wouldn't be good because it's more than 2 inches. So everyone has to be within 2 inches of each other. And the best way to do it is to move one or two guys and then move these guys up. And at the end, you can check it, and that's the best way to do it. Just keep them within 2 inches. Now, you don't want to bunch them up together, and you don't want them too far apart. So 2 inches is a good rule of thumb, and it's also part of the rules.
Okay, now it's also important to know that sometimes if you get shot at or something, you will get out of unit coherency. You just go back to it on your next movement.
You have to get into coherency because it's actually kind of good that, let's say, somebody does this to you. Well, you have to, the next turn you must go back into coherency.
Yeah, in other words, do the movements is where you would get into coherency.
Right.
Like if this guy moves 6 inches, get into coherency, then don't move any of these guys.
Right.
All right, that's kind of like the law of movement. Now, moving your characters or your units is on a model-by-model basis. This is important to remember. Let's switch this guy out for your missile launcher. All right, this is a heavy weapon. If you move a heavy weapon, you can only shoot at snapshot. Okay. And this is just for troop type, okay?
Now, also, if it's a template weapon,
you
can't. If he moves, he can't shoot at all.
You can't shoot at all. But luckily, in this example, this is a missile launcher. You can shoot regular crack missile or a flat frag missile, which is a template weapon. So you do have the option. Now, if you did move the heavy weapon, you can only fire a snapshot. I mean, you can only shoot that crack missile. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is that you could do this. You can move these guys up. Okay, remember, it's model by model basis. And leave this guy, as long as you're in coherency, alone. Right. That means these 4 guys moved, this guy didn't. So that means on your shooting phase, this guy could shoot out his frag missiles at whatever you need. But it's important that to remember that moving a model is on a model-to-model basis, even when moving a unit.
Right. Now, you can move him. Just know that if you move him, there are the rules attached to it.
And the last thing to remember is that there's no facing on these models. They could shoot backwards if they wanted to, or facing backwards. So there's no real facing on these models.
So it's almost like when you pivot a tank, it's the same thing. They're going to shoot where they're going to shoot, as long as they're within the line of sight.
Yeah, the only difference with the tanks is that you can only shoot wherever you're facing.
Correct.
All right, these guys, troops, don't have to. Mm-hmm. And of course, one last thing you got to remember is if you move through certain terrain, if it's difficult terrain, you got to make a difficult terrain test.
Right. So just like we did with the one model, now the whole squad has to take it. And if the squad does do it, you have to roll each one their armor save individually.
Right.
And it's very important because you're going to say, I'm going to roll for this guy. Because if this guy dies and you take him out, you lose your heavy weapon.
Right.
Or if your sergeant dies, that's why it's very important to do.
Right. You have to point out and roll one at a time,
right.
usually.
You can't just do the old cheat roll and
you just take whatever you want.